What's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to Season 3 of the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kits Keep in Touch Systems and the Buzz Conference. Make sure you connect with the Buzz Conference by visiting their website, www.thebuzzconference.com, and by following them on Instagram at The Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all the awesome events they host, along with getting the latest copy of the Buzz digital magazine. The Buzz is a leading voice in our real estate industry. Kits offers a fully loaded cross-channel marketing suite for the real estate industry, including tools to help you generate more leads, drive more referrals, manage your business, and build that mind share so you can drive even more sales. You can learn more on my site, mindshare101.com, by clicking on marketing. And as you know, we are on a push of 100 reviews on iTunes. And so I would like to ask you, if you haven't yet, please take 2 minutes to go to iTunes, rate the show, leave a review. It really is that easy. And of course, let me say thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 144. Accompanied by a fantastic team, she heads the RE.A.L Global Department, which currently services RE.A.L in over 100 countries and territories around the globe. And she and her team are responsible for expanding the RE.A.L global footprint and moving the brand forward all over the world. In addition to her work to develop and grow the RE.A.L brand, she spends her time working with an important initiative called R.E.A.L. RE.A.L Empowering Ambitious Ladies. R.E.A.L is a global community of women supporting and inspiring women to be the best versions of themselves in both business and in life, and focusing on diversity within the real estate industry. This week on the show, I am joined by the Vice President of Global Development for RE.A.L, Shawna Gilbert. Shawna, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
Thank you. It was so funny. I went back and listened to some of your old sessions, and I was trying to anticipate how I was going to come on and what energy to match yours. And I thought, gosh, just go with you, Shawna, because you're going to look dumb.
Hey, listen, you know what? First, thank you for going back and tuning in. I would say, but I like that message right off the top. And that goes for everybody. Stay in your lane. Always be who you are. That is the most genuine and authentic version of you. And that's exactly what people are looking for. So look at that. 2 seconds in and a great learning moment already. I love it. Thank you. No, it's awesome having you here.
Thank you.
Your time today. Yeah.
Honored to be here. Just want to say thank you for the invite. Obviously we have a mutual friend that connected us, who's an awesome person in the space as well. But what an honor to be amongst some of your guests. Yeah. Like last week, I think you had Clifford Starks, and matching with you. Don't have a 6-pack. I think I have a 6-pack of Michelob Ultra in my fridge, but loved his messaging. Loved it.
He was good. You know what? It's funny. He started off, obviously you paid attention, and thank you. But he started off quite subdued, and then we started to really rile him up. Right. And now you start to go, okay, wait a second. And now he started just popping off. And I mean, it was, it was a great episode. And we're lucky. We get a lot of really awesome guests here. And like I said, it's great to have you. Now, I've been really excited about this one. Because when we first spoke, which seems like yesterday, but it's probably like a month ago now, we went off on a tangent. I think this 15-minute quick little intro meeting, turned into like an easy hour with both of us laughing. And, it felt like we could just keep talking forever. So it's exciting to have you, to sort of be here today and go, okay, now we got an hour to do this. This is good. But
we do.
I was going to say, for those who don't know you, yes, who are not familiar with you, can you share with us, what do you specifically focus on in your day? Who are you? How long have you been, at this role, and just focused on what you do every day?
Who am I? This is an easy one. And I'm going to warn, whenever I talk to people about, what we do, the next question that generally follows is, gosh, do you have room on your team? So I'm going to start with, no, I don't have room on my team at this point, unfortunately. But to give you an idea, so I've been with RE.A.L for a little over 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
11 years that has gone by in a blink of an eye. And I think for the last 17 months with the COVID challenges, I think that added an additional 4. So I'd like to say I'm, 15 years of experience here. But, talking about what we focus on. So my team and I, so we're a very small team. We're a team of 7. And we manage all the relationships outside of the US for RE.A.L. So that is actually over 110. Somehow I must have sent you the wrong number because we're actually over 110 countries and territories.
Wow.
And we focus on, building and growing those existing relationships that we have, working with our existing franchisees, so region owners, those who have entrusted, we've entrusted the RE.A.L brand to them in their country, in their territory. They're responsible for expanding the brand. Some places teaching real estate, some real estate is not a model that is indicative to what it is in Canada and the US in a lot of places. So they're introducing even the concept of it, teaching them how to sell offices, franchises, how to recruit agents, real estate 101 for agents, like you name it. And so our day-to-day is not only focusing on our network, but for me, being the leader of this department, one of my most important elements is focusing on my team, the growth and development, leading, motivating, inspiring the team of people that, I'm entrusted with, and making sure that they're motivated, inspired, and doing their very best for the clients. Because when that happens, all of our clients win and we all win.
Well, it sounds like you focus a lot of time on delivering a ton of value to the network. I mean, when we look at the definition of value, we talk about, educate, inform, motivate, and inspire. You're talking to a lot of people in a lot of different places. So you just said 110 different countries. How many different agents or how many agents are there? And what's the office count within that 110 countries? Just out of curiosity.
Sure. So we have a little over 140,000 agents around the world. So our team manages about half of the agents. And then we also have offices. We're nearly 9,000 offices, and we manage about a little over 4,000 of those with our team. So massive global footprint, one of the largest real estate brands in the world. And, another piece I wanted to touch on in terms of what we do is we focus on growth. So whether it's growing people, which is probably the first and most important, ourselves and others. But we focus on our KPIs, which, we have 3 of them. Every day we look at how are we adding another office? How are we adding another agent to those offices? And how are we adding production to those agents? And if what we're doing on a daily basis ties into those pillars, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. If it doesn't, we have to reprioritize and look at what we're doing.
And, I want to get into that education side because you and I had a great conversation around that. And then just the different, cultural ways of doing this business. That's it. I wanted to ask you, just curious, did you ever focus on the sales side of the business in terms of like actually selling the real estate itself at any point?
I did not.
Okay.
Background is business management and finance. And so I'd like to say that finance, I work for a brokerage firm, and I'd like to say that finance and real estate is somewhat of a parallel industry. You're watching a lot of different levers changing the trajectory of your investments, same stocks versus real estate, but similar, but no. I mean, I've had the pleasure of talking to hundreds of thousands of agents in my term. But unfortunately, I have to live vicariously through others in the day-to-day of our real estate agents.
Hey, I will be right there beside you to say that I did get my license some 17 years ago. I have kept it up, and uphold it ever since. And it's always active. And I always do all the courses and pay the insurances and everything else. And really the only real estate I bought and sold is anything that I've done for me as investments or whatever it be. Outside of that, we started Kits, our marketing company, some 16 years ago as sort of just an offset to the fact that, we studied marketing, we studied business, we studied everything, studied real estate, and then somehow fell into building a marketing company, which, fortunately, gratefully, and thank you to everybody that's tuned in that is part of, the Kits world. But, it took off, and it took off fast. And
That's
really,
great.
it was kind of that thing of like, wait, I'm not going to end up selling real estate. I'm very focused on this. So I'm very much with you. I've spoken to thousands upon thousands of realtors over the past 16 years, but have focused very much on the marketing and the business side of things, of helping people get to that next level of their career. And I would say that that is an incredibly rewarding thing when you can help people, lift them up and help them be above the crowd, right?
Exactly. I love it. I love it.
So listen, we just sort of touched on it. I said I'd come back to it. So I'm going to come right back to it.
Okay.
We do see a lot of different ways that this business gets done.
Yes.
We see it, from, I mean, up here in Canada, like you can go to 2 different cities and it's getting done differently. And that's more just from the way the people do it. We know that when we look at North America versus other places in the world, we also see some major, major differences, from cultural backgrounds to, the generational differences just of people, sort of the old school, the new school,
Right.
whatever in the middle ground. And it's not so much about maybe the diversity of the people, maybe it is, but, it's how people operate, right? It's what's ingrained inside of them. And I'm curious, what's your take, your view around the culture of this business? What do we feel that everybody, as a whole, maybe even say worldwide, should be focused on to make this more of a cohesive industry?
When you ask me that question, I start to flash into every single one of our clients because, unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, I can tell you every single day that we have is not the same as the other. Whether it's natural occurrences, whether it's civil wars, whether it's, the COVID challenges we're still facing, whether it's industry trends, whether it's economy situations, politics, you name it. So when I think about it, I kind of walk through, but I can tell you that, in terms of the culture of our industry specifically, the one thing that pops out to me that, we have to focus on and create, a cohesive industry across the board is professionalism, ethics, cooperation with others, and a focus on service. If we look at it, no matter where you are, wherever you are, a seller wants to sell their home, a buyer wants to buy a home, right? The transaction is the exact same. And the way that we get there, RE.A.L is trying to make the way that you complete that transaction to be the same, no matter where you are in the world. But, the consumer is the same too. They have different ways to get information. We do have some countries that there are no MLSs. And so the only way for them to get inventory is to have a relationship with an agent and be able to, show them the stock and the inventory that they have. We do have places that do have the MLSs that they've created and somewhat to create a cooperation in the industry. But the consumer's needs are the exact same. And if we look at it and we look at it for what is best for the consumer, I don't care where you are in the world, that is what matters the most. And I think in some ways we lose focus on that, especially, we're a multi-tier level company. We at RE.A.L LLC will sell the rights to RE.A.L to a country, who will then sell the rights to an office to use, who will then recruit agents to use, who will then tap the shoulder of those consumers. And so we have to make sure, no matter what level we are in the process, that everybody is delivering the same message and that everybody has, that end line that what matters is the consumer experience. And when we're focused on that, I think we can have a cohesive, professional, ethical, cooperative industry.
Customer experience, professionalism. I was actually talking with a colleague of yours, Sandra Kirkland, who was on the show not too long ago. And we spent a lot of time. In fact, the show was very much focused around professionalism.
You're right.
And really trying to raise the level of professionalism in the industry. And I think that, as everybody really understands that, right? Because it's difficult to say, I can control what you do.
Right.
No, I can control what I do. Now, if everybody has this vision and this thought around what you just said there about customer experience, if we take it back to technology, the reason the phones continue to change, the reason there continues to be upgrades and new models, yes, there's a profit thing there that goes on, and there's just a hype of like, hey, we could sell more. There's also an idea that they're finding better ways to make the UE better, the user experience. Well, in this case, people aren't using us, they're working with us. Let's call them customer experience. And now that professionalism goes a long way. And a good point that was raised there was that when there's issues amongst two agents, if one agent looks at it and says to the client, hey, that person is wrong, they don't know what they're talking about, they're just, they're a bunch of idiots, whatever it be, something has to be said there. And really the best way to combat that is to not share that with your client. Because what you're doing now is you're bringing the level of professionalism in the industry down. You're creating an experience for the client that is not the best one. And now it leaves them walking away with what? Well, thinking maybe I should have chose somebody else, or maybe realtors aren't, we don't need them. And this is that much higher level, around like, remain relevant for the agent. You know what I mean?
Right. David, you make a good point on that because, I think it's important to understand. I don't care what brand you're with. I don't care if you're independent. I don't care your virtual brand, your brick and mortar brand. We all have had bad agents. We all have bad agents who create bad experiences for consumers to then relay back to our brands, every single brand across the board, including RE.A.L. And I think it even creates an additional sensitivity when we have agents around the globe who have different cultural experiences, in different ways that they do business, and that exacerbates it, incredibly because you have agent in South America who doesn't understand how the Asian industry works, and it loses patience, and somebody who's focused on referrals then stops doing referrals because that one single agent that they reached out to, isn't doing their job or isn't doing what they need to do. And I think overall, there has to be a level of patience. There has to be a level of support. Help our people, help guide them, help train them. You don't know the tenure of that agent. We love inspiring new agents to join our company. I believe in brand new agents just as much as I believe in our veterans. It doesn't matter how long you've been here. It matters what you're offering and what you're willing to provide and how much you're willing to learn.
That's I got to say very selfishly, I mean, in a positive way, that's part of the reason that I'm so excited to be part of the Coach's Corner that RE.A.L offers, just so that we can help really push that message out there, really help, grab this or create this cohesive way that people are doing things. We're excited about that, but, as you're traveling and you're doing and all this stuff and we talk about training and operating on this big global level, what are some of those maybe key differences that you do see from, say, like agents in North America versus, what people are doing in I don't know, randomly, like overseas in Europe or something? Maybe the question is like, are we doing it really well here in North America and we can share stuff with them? Or are there things they're doing that we should probably pick up on as well?
I think it's a mix. I think the one thing that I have to say about some of our other regions, especially I'm going to call out, Latin America specifically for this, is culture. The one thing I think that others do well, and not, I'm talking geographically, there are really great offices who get this, who understand that culture is such, is the giant piece that you need to make sure that you're putting into your office or your region to drive people there, right? And so when I look at what some places do well, Latin America, they have this, family culture that's just naturally in them. And this translates into their business sense. And so when you look at, in Argentina, who has over 4,000 RE.A.L agents there, and everybody wants to be part of it because they've created this space where people can collaborate, they can innovate, they change the way real estate's being done so much that they are continually fighting against the associations there because they believe what we do with our consumers and create the greatest experience for our consumers and empower our agents to have their own business how can that be? They just can't understand, how we can do that, how an agent can own their own business and not be an employee. And, so I think what others can do really well, especially on a region and a broker level, is create incredible culture. And I think in some areas we've lost that swagger for that. The model here, to talk about, briefly on the model, it's in what Canada and the US has created in terms of the consumer knows what to expect in a process, kind of general sense, right? You know what to expect. It's been, put through the legal system. It's been put through process. We know what to expect pretty much from start A to Z. You go to some countries where we're creating that, a consumer doesn't know what to expect. They don't know, they don't understand transparency. They don't understand that there is an intermediary to the process, that you should have a trusted advisor, that you don't just pass somebody cash and handwrite a deed. Deeds aren't even something that's common, in some countries. And so, I think what we do well in the process in Canada and US is cooperation. We work well together, whether, we are tech enabled. And so we kind of had to, because all the listings ended up being together. And so agents were able to pick those out, and you do have to work with a listing agent. We do have exclusive listings. Imagine being a consumer in another country where you have 15 agents selling your property.
Wow.
And you think that's the right process. You think you have 15 people working really hard to sell your property, but ultimately you're getting very, very small pieces of their time. And it's not the best process for the consumer. And so in Brazil and Portugal, they've worked really hard to create exclusive listings so that the consumers can learn that there is a better way in this real estate process.
Does exclusive mean the exact same thing down there as it means up here?
It does, to where you're working with one single agent, you have a contract, and then you're working with them. And to many countries, that's not common. You hold the listing, you put it out there for the handful of people to see it, and days on market is a really long time when you talk about that.
It's sort of, I was going to ask you, are we looking at different ways to train the agent from a, certain sides of things, maybe in a global perspective again, on how to educate the consumer? And I guess in the same breath as I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm going, there's a real opportunity here for us as an industry, as a brand, to educate the consumer around, process and how to, help them simplify, how to help them feel, more comfortable, get the best value, keep them safe. I think an education around that, there's an opportunity there. Like, I guess you must have ideas for that in terms of how you guys go about that. Because again, from a global perspective, 110 different countries, you're seeing a ton of different ways real estate is getting done. There's got to be some good ideas there, I guess, to get out there and educate. Like if we said to agents, hey, you should use your channels to go in and educate the consumers more.
Yes.
From a training perspective?
Yes, and yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. You hit the nail on the head when you talked about, we not only have to train our agents, but we have to go one step further and we have to train the consumers, because they're the ones who have lived the process before, RE.A.L was there creating a model, and they are used to a different experience. And so it's educating the consumers, getting them to understand, the value of a single agent versus 15 agents, the effort that an agent is going to put in, the process that's in place. We don't have licensing in a lot of our countries, which there's two sides to look at it. Some see it as a barrier, but for us, RE.A.L creates the space, the education, the professionalism. So we create our own kind of version of licensing, if you will, in those countries that don't have it. When you do instill licensing, like RE.A.L Turkey is going through this right now, where they're instituting licensing. And so now all of our agents who are in that network have to go and get their license, and before that, they can continue to do transactions. And, it's a process. And licensing to me doesn't make you a good agent. All it does is say, that I can do it. And I know all those, I think all the stuff that you're doing right now, especially with your credits, isn't part of the business. It's just to understand the regulations that are in your district. It's not anything other than that. And, you can have a license and be a crummy agent. You can have no license and be top-notch, top 10 agent in the world. That, doesn't matter. So lots of opportunities here. When we look at it, we have a challenge when we do training. We have this language barrier. We have lots of agents, especially when we get to an agent level, that we do have to localize and create it to their language. So we do try to combat that with, sharing, a lot of sharing of training with other regions, lots of best practice sharing. We institute training and try to translate that into multi languages. We try to share that. We try to have them translate, put it on platforms that make it easy to do that. But we're constantly innovating when it comes to changing training processes and instituting best practices in all of these, over 110 countries and territories. That's why, we're very busy. That's why we have, are pretty secure in what we do, is because there's always something more to do.
I was going to ask you in terms of improving the quality of agent. And it's funny that when you brought that up of you can have your license. So it means you can do the business.
Correct.
It doesn't necessarily mean you do the business well, and I think that there's something to be said about that. We see that a lot, especially where we are located here in, kind of the Southern Ontario region. We've got a very dense population of realtors. There's a lot of different people coming in, from just different angles, different places, different everything, that are doing things their way. And I think that there's something to be said around when we talk about, again, customer experience. How do we raise the level or the quality of the agent coming into the business? I don't know how you raise the level of them coming in, but it's almost like, what can you do once they come in to raise that level of quality? I mean, I've got to imagine that's something that's always at the forefront of your guys' minds.
It is, and especially quality and quantity is that chicken and egg conversation that we have all the time, right? Yeah. No matter, across the board in this industry, it is about, we want to recruit agents. We don't know who is going to be that ultra successful agent, no matter, what their history, what they were doing before. I look at it a little bit differently, and if I were to put a broker owner hat on, and I'd like to think that I'm pretty in tune with people and how they
you
work.
Only have 110 countries with how many thousands of agents that you talk to?
Right, 140,000 agents, just a few. But, when I look at it and I look at people and I see the most successful ones, they are the ones, if I'm traveling to a country, they're the ones who come up with me and bring their business card and tell me who they are. They tell me, what type of business they focus on, that they're open for referrals. If I happen to know somebody looking for an agent in that area, there is an energy about them that it doesn't matter. You get a sense, you can tell the ones who are always asking questions, who always want to learn more. I do believe that there's a persona of those top agents. And I think if you really look at it, I think we can increase the quality of who we're bringing in. However, I also believe once they're in, we have a great opportunity to educate and train, those on who might be, let's say somebody's a natural introvert and that energy I can't feel just by being with them, but they have it because they know that they need it. You can train and educate people on how to tap into some of those areas. But, the focus is training, making sure that our agents are putting pride in their own work, understanding that this is their business. I think that's the beginning, is the employee entrepreneurship mentality of this industry. I don't think we spend enough time kind of explaining what that means and the flexibility and the freedom it gives our agents to run their business, how they see it, how they want to manage it, and who they want to introduce into it. And I think that part says a lot, in terms of how we can I think, turn it in is create accountability and ownership for our agents to know that their success is, we can only do so much. They have to do a lot of the hard work.
You touched on culture before, and I remember years ago doing a presentation on that, and it was called, culture, the fifth element. And that's something, again, you got to create, you cannot buy. Much the same when you just mentioned freedom and flexibility. That is one of or probably the two biggest reasons anybody gets into the game of real estate. I know a lot of people say, well, I like real estate. I like having a roof over my
houses.
head. Right. I like houses. Right. Exactly. Right. But that's not really what the business is. Like, much the same, realtors are not buying and selling properties. They are helping people buy and sell properties. And so, the whole idea there of, increasing the quality of agent coming in, I think that's a whole other challenge of looking and saying, what are the licensing requirements? How do you go ahead and get your license? And is that open to just anybody, or do you need to take a pre-screening interview? But, certain steps there, the thing becomes now, they got in, they went and did it for the fact that freedom and flexibility. So if you take that and say, okay, fine. So freedom, flexibility, got it. The opportunity to make money in this business. Absolutely. Make as much as you want, because it's not really a ceiling if you push hard enough, or have the right systems in place. Much the same too, though. You don't just get licensed and all of a sudden be an overnight success.
Right.
You need to understand how many hats you're wearing and understand that it is a business. And Shawna, I'll tell you, I think that's one of the biggest missing links in the education part of it, the licensing part of it. And I'm not pointing fingers in any direction, more as an overall umbrella to say that I think as we go through that process, we can actually improve the quality by saying, look, not only do you understand the legalities of the business, but understand what it's going to do to be, what it's really going to take to generate business, and what it's going to, where your business is going to come from down the road. And again, that's, from a Mindshare 101 perspective, that's one of our passionate topics, is really to help people understand, you've got to create the systems and the processes, to bring in the leads and then convert the leads and then drive the referral business after the fact. Like, it's a whole thing. And don't forget, you're going to have people tooth and claw looking for you in every different place all the time, right? It's running a business.
It's running a business. And David, you touched on this. I think people think this business is also easy.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially in this market where they feel like, things went up for 7 hours and they sold. How easy is it? This is not the case. The one thing that's very difficult for us right now is retaining these new agents, because we have to get them to their first transaction. To get them to their first transaction, they're in a sea of people who are experienced, who have been through these volatile markets, who understand time is of the essence, know the process, they can sell that process, and, getting people to that transaction, and then through the negotiations. And negotiations is one thing. The emotional roller coaster people are on right now, I don't know about you, but I've heard stories where people are they have to move, they have to find a new place, and they're on, house number 17, and their offer hasn't been accepted. To me, that takes a very, very specific skill set to be able to maneuver transactions right now. And I think people discount how hard our agents work. Flexibility and freedom, sure, somewhat. But when do people want to look at houses? Saturday, Sunday, at night? I mean, I'll be honest, that doesn't intrigue me as part of the sales process. They give up. And to even lead into what I think one of our agents' biggest challenges is creating boundaries. Because of the expectations of our consumers, because of, what kind of standard we've put, especially in the market that's happening. And this isn't just in the US, not just in Canada. We have this type of market around the world right now. And the boundaries have been stretched, right? I'm working from home right now. My boundaries, I don't really have them. We manage time zones around the world. So work is when work is here. Very much like a real estate agent. Whenever that client calls, they answer. Whenever that offer needs to be submitted, they answer. And I think one of the biggest challenges for our agents is managing a balance. because they deserve it just like the rest of us. But how do you work with consumer expectations and create a balance within your business?
You know, it's funny. We talked about that originally when we first spoke about that work-life balance, and comes right back to what we actually said just before we started today around, have time, manage you. Right. And it comes down to that scheduling, because I'm with you when we talk about challenges. I mean, yeah, freedom, flexibility. Sure. I'm going to get to do what I want when I want, kind of thing. I don't really have a boss. I don't have to go in anywhere, and I personally firsthand have explained to people that, this is not a 9 to 5. This is not a 40-hour-a-week job. This is not Monday to Friday. This is, when you got to do what you got to do. Yeah. And if that means that Friday and Saturday night you're out running with clients, and maybe Monday afternoon or Monday sort of like 12 o'clock, everybody's kind of like working, starting their week, but that's your time to go and have your downtime and sit on a dock or read a book. Then you know what? Embrace the fact that that's when you get it, is on the Monday afternoon, while the rest of the world is kind of doing their thing. Because on Friday and Saturday night, when you're doing your thing and you're looking around going, well, I understand that's the nature of the beast. Now, if you do have that proper balance and you do create those boundaries, you can be in a lot more control of what you accomplish. And I think that as we talk about, an agent's biggest challenge, because I was going to ask you, like, what are your biggest challenges? And I think that I picked up on one of them being trying to deliver that value, and understand that they're all cultural and there are language barriers of how we deliver the message to people and how they can become better. So I'm curious of this, because, you work with obviously a lot of people. What about the brokers? In like today's current state, what is the broker's biggest challenge at the moment? Because past 19, 20 months now, whatever it's been, we've
3
seen
years.
right.
Feels like
the virtual technology stuff come up, which, we've seen that, which I think just had its blip in time.
Right.
What would you say for the brokers though? And like, what can they do about it?
I think for brokers, and this is across the globe, is I think that brokers are having a tough time right now expressing their value, right? They have a value proposition that they can share. But a lot of them seek us, like, what is my value? Outside of the RE.A.L brand, what value? And it's like, well, let's talk about you. This is about you. This isn't about what I'm doing for you. But what are they doing? What space are they creating? What training are they offering? What does the office look like? I think it's creating value and creating a space where people never want to leave. And that takes a lot of work, especially for our brokers who are also selling real estate themselves. I don't know how you balance the selling the real estate and then making sure that your agents are, kicking butt and creating businesses that are unstoppable for themselves. I think that there's a balance. But I think with COVID and the challenges we have, US and Canada are very different, I think, in where we are. Vaccinations are happening, where it's kind of a rolling tsunami of COVID around the world. We kind of see where it's going before it happens, and then it kind of comes back in, and it hasn't really changed in some places. But I think what they're going to face is our agents coming back. What do I do with all this office space that I have? Are they going to want to stay working from home? If they want to stay working from home, how do I manage that? Do I continue to keep this real estate? Because as you know, things always kind of go one extreme to the other, and then they settle somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. When's the middle? Where's the middle? And what do I do in the interim? And so I think, and this is not only broker owners, but I think it's for leaders in general, is how do I manage my business not knowing what the next 18 months is going to bring?
You used a line from Howard Schultz, Starbucks, who basically his whole goal was not to sell you or us $27 a cup of coffee, even though he mastered it. Yes. It was to create a place between work and home that people could come and relax, people could come and feel comfortable. And I think that's a wonderful way to really like a paradigm there, or a parallel, pardon me, of the two together saying, the real estate office, although it is work and then there's home.
Yeah.
If you create the right culture within that environment, it no longer feels like the work environment. It almost, and to those of us with families and lives and everything else going on in life, it's nice to get the break every once in a while to sort of break away from work or break away from home and just kind of get into that place. And if you can turn your business into that, and we look at what is that middle road, and we talk about making sure that everybody's adapting the right way. One of the things we are seeing, and I'm curious to hear your feedback on this, but in terms of adaptation, as we look at, these bricks and mortars, we look at the digital world. I mean, again, I joked about this earlier with one of your offices earlier on today on a meeting around how we're all there and we're here. And sorry, Shawna, where are you located right now?
I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Cool.
Parker, kind of in the country, but
I'm in Toronto, Canada. Right.
Yes.
So we're doing a video, we're doing audio, this is cool. Jetsons right here. Right.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of going, we have been forced into it over the past number of months, what seems like 4 years. We've been forced into it to adapt to this stuff. There's the middle ground, I think, is trying to figure out, how do I maintain this bricks and mortar, this place that people can physically go to feel comfortable? And how can I keep that experience very similar by also offering this kind of digital avenue that we can bring together, and it's one cohesive team?
Right.
Are you seeing from your brokers, from your offices, is there anybody, and not maybe to be specific about anybody in particular, but something that you're seeing that is just starting to really take that on that maybe others can kind of learn from?
I think the time has come in terms of people wanting to navigate, from their homes. I think this having our homes be not only our space of safety, but have it be the place where we're conducting business and not having that separation. I'm like you. I need a space away. I need, to be away from the home responsibilities that are always lurking.
Love you, family. We love you.
I know. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. Okay. So any parents who are listening who had to teach their children during the pandemic can understand, this extreme need for separation. I need people. But the one thing that I think is important for everybody, whether you're a broker, whether you're an agent, whether you're a team leader or you're part of a team, this is a process for all of us to work through. It is not the broker owner's responsibility to create, 100% what the experience looks like. It's also up to every single agent to create the space of what it looks like and what it feels like when everybody else is in that office. With my team, I do everything I can to create the experiences, but it's also up to every single team member to create that experience as well. And it's an us, not a I. And I think that comes down to offices too. Our biggest successful offices have a we mentality. They're all in it for the same. They're all contributing in their own way and creating that experience and not relying on a single person to make that experience happen. And so if I ask anybody and urge everybody, you can't create the experience if you're not there. And this is awesome that we get to talk and we get to experience this. But I'd rather, grab a beer and be able to talk everything, than be limited by this screen. I'm a hugger. I want to hug. I want to see people. I get energy from it. And I think other people do too. But they have to start experiencing it and they have to start getting out of what has now become our comfort zone to really elevate that experience.
I love that message. The no I in team, right? Yes. I mean, in order to really create it, it's not just one thing to look and go, well, they're trying it. Well, yeah, but you're part of that piece. You've got to actually buy into that. And when you do that, I mean, look, this is where we see, the number 8 team in the playoffs all of a sudden go to the finals, right? How did they get there? They weren't the best team all season, but at some point something clicked. Everybody bought into the system, and the system was what elevated them to that place that they went to. Love that message. Yeah, no, it's 100%. You're bang on, right? Like, it really takes everybody really buy. It takes a team.
Yes.
But it takes people really doing that. Now, speaking of leadership and leading the way, you are a part of a network which includes some very amazing people, some mutual friends of ours, women in specific, and it is called R.E.A.L. Now, that's RE.A.L Empowering Ambitious Ladies. I got that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Tell us more. What is this about? It's almost like I don't have to answer that anymore. It seems like everybody just knows what it is these days. But I mean, it's caused some wicked traction. Like, what's it about? What's the motive behind it? Why should everybody, not just
everybody,
why should everybody be aware?
Not just ladies. Right. Yes. So what it is, one, being a woman, and having experiences around the globe, from things in terms of, managing relationships, shaking hands, hugging, not hugging, open-toed shoes, no open-toed shoes, short sleeve shirts, fully covered, taking that out of it, the complication of being a woman in a, global section. What we did find is women need the support of other women, as much as you and I can talk about, the challenges I have as being a career woman with 2 kids, 3, sometimes if you count my husband, sometimes he's there too. We can talk about it. You can't really relate. You can empathize, but somebody who's in the same experience, somebody who's experienced, the same challenges I have, with diversity and inclusion, potentially, it's just easier conversation. So 2 awesome ladies, Michelle Goodridge, from where you are, Toronto.
Yeah.
She had the honor of working with some of our founders in Canada, Walter Schneider and Frank Polsler. Mm-hmm. And then we also have a broker owner, Joanna Colton, in Portugal. And, probably over some bubbly, they had some conversations about some challenges that they were facing and decided that we needed a group. We needed to create a group that we can come together, we can support each other, we can celebrate our challenges, our successes. And it couldn't have happened at a better time, because once COVID happened, there were a lot of women who took a step back from work that felt that they had to balance the needs of home. And so at a perfect time for people to start talking about that disruption that we were seeing. We had a group every month we met. We had topics to try to keep people optimistic and motivated and moving forward and knowing no matter what you're going through, we got you. We got your back. And, so this is from, talking about the challenges of just being a woman to being a mother to friendships to big business issues. That's what we do at R.E.A.L, because it's freaking real. And for real. And it's easy to be a part of. We have a Facebook group. So if anybody,
I was going to ask you, how can people join it?
If they're interested, just go to R.E.A.L, and it's R.E.A.L with dots in between, to indicate that it means something. RE.A.L Empowering Ambitious Ladies don't need to be I'm sorry, my computer's telling me it wants to restart. Don't need to be a lady, because I think what's most important is for people to understand, especially our guys, our, real estate agents who are men, our broker owners who are men. You got to support the ladies, who are working hard and a lot of times balancing the needs of home too. And so we have to have the support across the board. And I think that's what's most important. It's just creating an awareness, right? This group creates an awareness that there are differences, discrepancies exist, diversity exists, the challenges of women exist. And if it didn't, we wouldn't need this group.
We have First, I think that's awesome, and I know just from the grapevine that it gets a lot of very, very positive traction. So for anybody that's not aware of R.E.A.L, make sure you go to the Facebook or go to Facebook, type in R.E.A.L R.E.A.L. Again, RE.MAX Empowering Ambitious Ladies. Find the group, join the group, connect with all the people that are there leading the way. Again, I've heard nothing but wonderful things. I have not partaken in a meeting. But I again, you hear it through the grapevine, and it's very cool for the positive traction that it's gained. And that again is much in the same, creating some sort of culture. Right. I will also say that, just on a total side note, and this requires no, feedback, comment, anything, opinion. We have worked really, really, really hard in society over, the span of life to create equality. And to get past the barriers of, gender, get past the barriers of race, and get past the barriers of language. And for what we've been going through prior to what we walked into with COVID, okay? And just the political things that are out there. I really, unfortunately, say that this COVID thing has taken us very far backwards. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate because the segregation now is bigger and stronger than it's ever been because of what's going on. And it's not necessarily around gender, race, any of that stuff. It's about other things. And I just, my message to everybody would just be, listen, to each their own, have respect for everybody. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a choice. Let's again, treat each other with respect and treat each other on an equal level, no matter what that choice is. So that's more of a statement, and I'll just
love it. I want to press the heart button.
Well, you know what? It's one of those, again, I'm not going to say, because I didn't throw that at you before. I'm not going to put you on the spot for anything. And quite frankly, I said to everybody and anybody, there's certain topics, let's stay the heck away from. But I, from a diversity perspective, that's something for me that's been burning me up inside lately around what's going on out there. And I think that we need to, as a society, acknowledge that and say, we are equal, no matter what your choice is. If we've been for this long fighting to make sure that everybody's got a fair, they're allowed their own opinion, they're allowed to think. Let's have respect for each other. Yes. Now, flipping back to this, tell me something from a RE.MAX perspective. I was going to ask you about marketing with agents and things of that nature. But just, I know we're watching the clock there, from a marketing perspective, or pardon me, from a RE.MAX perspective, what are some cool things maybe about RE.MAX right now that maybe everybody needs to know about? What is RE.MAX doing to prepare for, the unknowns of what's ahead? And I know I can sort of throw some of that out there already and say, you guys are all over your brokers, all over your managers, you guys all over the culture thing, the training thing. But just thought I'd sort of throw that out there and see if there's anything specific that, you wanted to mention on behalf of.
Sure. Well, the one thing over the last 18 months, if a real estate agent was going to be replaced by tech, it would have happened, right? Everything else went to tech. So if we were going to be replaced, it would have happened. It didn't. Instead, what it did, it made our position, our agents, our realtors, even more important. And so what we're doing at RE.MAX is we're making sure that we're enabling our agents with tech. So we're not replacing our agents, we're enabling our agents with tech. So we've a couple of years ago, we partnered with a company called Bouge. We actually purchased a company called Bouge. We're creating, incredible tech for our agents to be able to manage their business. We're starting to work through the US and Canada with that tech and hopefully, get that out to our global agents. We're really focused on referrals. We have this massive global footprint. How do we make it easier for our agents to connect? Because we touched on kind of the differences of business. How do we educate our agents of those differences so that they can connect and do business? Because we have second homes being bought. We have people like, hey, if this is going to happen again, I'd rather be on a beach in Costa Rica. I don't really want to be, here in Iowa. And so we have people moving and we have the network that can provide that. So we're working to enhance our referrals, the experience that people are having in terms of connecting this global network. What else are we doing? I think it's really our focus. And I think if we had another hour, we can talk specifically a little bit more about referrals and additional niche markets that our agents, could have an incredible time experiencing. we'll save that one for the next call.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to that.
Great things happening with RE.A.L.
No, I like, you know what? And it goes without saying naturally that RE.A.L, I mean, it's the reason that it's the biggest brand in the world. It's the reason that it's globally recognized by just, you know, the emblem of a balloon. And I say that with all due respect that, you know, there's not a company in this industry that you can go to any corner of this earth and people would just automatically recognize who it is. And, that's ultimate mind share, you know? And so, but
we have an icon. Yes.
Well, and I love what you say there about it's not about replacing with the tech. It's about enabling. And RE.A.L is naturally getting ahead of the game with that to enable agents with the technology. The fact that you brought up the word referrals, you know, there was a time in this business where referral was the golden word. And then all of a sudden, you know, somewhere along the lines with all this tech, it became lead gen. And I will still stand by and say to everybody and anybody, you are always generating leads. It doesn't mean that it necessarily needs to be done through online channels. It could simply be having that beer and that coffee with somebody in person at a coffee shop, talking to somebody new. So there's a lot of ways to generate leads. And it really comes back to building those relationships, which takes a human being, which will never replace or be replaced by technology in that, because you can't build a relationship with technology.
No.
I hate this thing, right? So
I know.
Right.
Well,
so you need people and referrals.
You need people. We've gone way there. The pendulum swings far right. And now it's going to settle in the middle. I don't know about you, but I was all over social and now I forgot to post for a month, you know, and had to catch everybody up. I'm backing away from it because I can tell you these last 18 months between WhatsApp and text messages and emails and phone calls and Facebook and Instagram, I'm tired.
Okay. Listen, we're live on Facebook, so hopefully Mr. Zuckerberg's not listening to this, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna say it too. I hope he's not listening. But I had this thought I had this thought last night, like, what if I just deleted my account and started this whole big thing of like, listen, delete your social media. You can't anymore.
Cannot.
But I understand. I get it. I so get the exhaustion. And I'm hearing that from so many people. And I'm going to say to everybody that is part of what is stressing you out right now because you're not focused enough on you. We are programmed to be focused on so many other people. And again, if we just realign ourselves and focus on what it is we actually want in life, nothing wrong with being a little bit social. But we are way too social if you understand the context of that. Yes. To the point where it's taken people off into a bad place, even mentally. And we know that, again, that's another topic we talk about. So question for you here, a couple last questions.
Okay.
How do you know it's been a successful day for you?
Ooh, how do I know it's been a successful day? Since I'm a relationship person, if I have reached out, heard from one of our owners, created a moment for somebody, whether it's through a video, through a card I send, through a gift I send. I completely believe in the power of moments, and I'm going to throw a book in there. If you don't know how to create a moment for somebody, something that reminds them, Power Moments, Chip Heath, incredible kind of guideline for you. But, my goal is, if I've created a moment for somebody, whether it's a client, whether it's somebody who I've just ran into, I've had a successful day. My kids are still alive. The dogs are still alive. Even better.
We are batting 1,000 on this question again, folks. Once again, nobody has brought up the word money when it comes to how do we know it's been a successful day. So please etch that one into your brain, everyone, and really, really understand that there's not been one person we've had on the show, many of whom achieve wonderful levels of success. Shawna, just as yourself, not a single person uses the word money when I ask that question. And it's that is empowering in of its own. What last words, tips, or anything can you share with everybody who's tuned in to help themselves get out there, grow their mindset, and much the same. Considering you are with the biggest real estate brand in the world who has done the most awesome job when it comes to building mindshare, any tips for how people can get out there and build their own mindshare?
I have 3.
Go for it.
Not in any particular order, but I like the 3s, the pods of 3s. 1, always be learning. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how long you've been in the business. It changes. Things are changing. always be learning. Know what your consumers are expecting, what they're wanting, how they're using, what kind of tech they're using. So always be learning, number one. Number two, I'm stealing this from Jared James. He came on to one of our region owner calls and, we were talking about competition.
He was on the show not too long ago as well.
Yeah, love him. He said, stop focusing on others. Like you said, stay in your lane, you do you. But he said, the competition either replaces you or makes you better. Let that sit. Mm-hmm. Competition either replaces you or makes you better. You choose. You have the power to choose. And then the last, I love the compound effect. And if you haven't looked at this equation, I had to actually type it up to make sure it is. But one small percentage daily changes the course over a full year. If we do something 1% better every day for a year, we make it 37 times better at the end of the year. But if we do it 1% worse every day for that year, we make it 97% worse. Do the math, it works. So even if you're making little incremental changes, those matter. They matter big at the end of the cycle. So that's it. That's all I got.
Love it. No, that's more than just all you got. That is awesome. That is I really like those takeaways that you shared with us just now. And I would completely agree. Well, with all three of them, but even number three, it's something that we hold true to all the time. And it's why it's so cliche, but the Mona Lisa wasn't painted overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. Yep. These were brushstroke by brushstroke, brick by brick. It took little tiny movements to achieve the big goal. So some wonderful words. Shawna, if anybody wants to connect with you, I know we talked about R.E.A.L. They can, again, go to Facebook and check out R.E.A.L. Nationally, they can go to RE.MAX, check out RE.MAX. If anybody wants to connect with you, where should we direct them?
They can find me on Facebook, Shawna Gilbert. You can find me on Instagram, Shawna.Gilbert, as we found out before the show. If you need to email me, if you have any questions, anything, sgilbert@remax.com. I got you. So shoot me a message.
Awesome. Do it. And I encourage everybody to connect with her. I know from the day we started speaking, it was just easy convo. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for the time you shared with us today and for coming on the Mindshare podcast. So Shawna, thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much. What an honor to be here. Have a good day, everybody.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me and we'll set up a free consultation call, learn more about what you're looking to achieve and, well, how I will help you do just that. And don't forget that our push to 100 is on, so be sure to please go to iTunes, subscribe to the show, rate us, and leave a review. And of course, if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. I want to once again thank Virginia Munden and the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Make sure you connect with the Buzz by visiting their website, www.thebuzzconference.com, and by following them on Instagram at The Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all the awesome events they are always hosting, along with getting the latest copy of the Buzz digital magazine. I also want to thank Kit's Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked out the powerful marketing suite that Kit's offers, just go to my site, mindshare101.com, and click on Marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.